Hey, what's going on everyone? It's Joe Yoon, aka Joe Therapy for Just Therapies. And in this video, I'm going to talk about what you should be doing after a session with your clients. That way they can improve their range of motion even outside of the session and making sure they feel a little bit better in the long term. So got Ricky here. We worked on some overhead stuff. And now we're going to give him some homework to do so he can go home and continue and maintain that mobility. So there's so many different selections you can do on these mobility exercises or stretches. So it's just going to depend on what your knowledge is and your skill set on that is. But today I'm going to show you one that I do often with people struggling to get their arms overhead. So it's going to be a T-spine extension on a bench. So I'm going to have Ricky bring his elbows onto the bench, knees are under the hips. And then from here, we're going to drive the hips back, bicep curl here, and then drop the chest to the floor. So really concentrating on getting extension in the T-spine. But if you're looking here, we're getting some really good shoulder flexion here and really opening this area up. So he'll come back up and do that again. Usually about the 10 reps is pretty good, just concentrating on making sure he's getting full range of motion. Let's bring the elbows in a little bit, and that's going to put a little bit more stretch on the tricep too, and then come on back up. So again, this is really good to do post massage session because we're going to get some great range of motion gains in our session. But again, if you want those results to last a little bit longer, you're going to have to do some sort of movement after. It's going to depend also, if they're just there to relax, you don't have to do something like this, but if they're trying to get the most function and really improve everything, then doing something like this will help a ton. So that's just the first step, is doing some sort of mobility exercise or stretch to maintain that range of motion. But now we also have to strengthen the area a little bit too. So I'm going to show you one of my go-tos for overhead movement strengtheners. So after giving the stretch, now I always like to follow it up with a little bit of a strengthener to reinforce that new range of motion. And for overhead, a lot of people don't know this one, but downward dog is great because it's going to put some extra resistance and pressure onto that shoulder while your hands are overhead. You're just upside down essentially. So what Ricky's going to do for me is just run into a nice downward dog and then getting those arms overhead. And now pushing the chest towards the floor, push the chest towards the floor. And for you, let's bend the knees a little bit more, concentrating on the upper body. But now you can see the weight is going down his shoulder, down his arm. So we're reinforcing the new range of motion that we got in there. If this is a little bit difficult for you, let's have you go onto a bench and just raise up your arms. And then make sure you're putting some pressure into that bench too. That way we're still engaging these lats and the shoulder blades. And this is a great way if the version on the floor is a little bit too difficult. So that's it. So we start off with the session, run through the session, get some more range of motion, get the client feeling great, and then running through some mobility exercises so that way they can go home and concentrate on maintaining that mobility and then reinforcing it with some strength so that way their range of motion goals stay and you elongate those muscles and they stay that way in the long term. And that is it for this video. Let me know if you liked it and then what you want to see in the future for this page.